John in San Francisco.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
I'm doing good. I've been watching your show, and I'm a big fan. And I'm a theist, by the way.
Okay.
And I just want to know what makes atheism, the naturalism worldview, more rational than all other worldviews. I mean, what kind of arguments can you present that would defeat all other worldviews?
Atheism is not a worldview.
What is it then?
It's a response to a claim. The claim being that a God exists.
But don't they view the universe as non-contingent? They view the world as certain way, particular way. They view evolution, science, everything a particular way.
Nothing. There's no requirement for an atheist to believe any of those things.
Naturalism is a worldview.
Yes, naturalism
is.
Yeah.
But that's not the same thing as atheism.
Actually, you could argue that in some cases atheism is the result of naturalism, and in other cases it's not. For example, you've got Buddhists, or the example we use a lot. The non-theistic brand of Buddhists are atheists, and they have a worldview that's entirely not compatible with naturalism. So, are you just calling to ask why naturalism is
more rational than, say, monotheism or polytheism or pantheism?
Sure. The reason naturalism is more rational than any of the theisms is that they make an extra claim in addition to nature, and it's a violation of Occam's razor, the sharp end of Occam's razor.
What justification does atheism have that God does not exist?
Are you just like reading a list of questions you got from a website? Because
no, I'm just picking these up at the top of my head.
Okay. Atheism isn't the assertion that gods don't exist. Atheism.
My understanding, atheism by definition is non-belief in a God.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Denial of the God.
Correct.
Not necessarily denial.
Well, I'll deny that the claims have been demonstrated. Atheism is not the assertion that gods don't exist. It is the rejection of the claim that gods do exist as unsupported.
So
you're asking,
exist, right?
What's that?
God does not exist.
I do not believe that any gods exist.
Can I tell you that that's a positive claim to knowledge? And
no, it's not a positive claim to knowledge. I just said I do not believe that gods exist. In the same way that I say I do not believe that fairies exist, and I'm not required to demonstrate that they actually don't. The default position is that existence must be demonstrated. I am not asserting to know to an absolute certainty that no gods exist. If I had asserted that position, and I would have had this conversation gone a different way, that I actively believe there are no gods, but instead I'm saying I do not believe that gods exist. Please demonstrate that they do.
God exists is a positive claim to knowledge by theists, and they use different arguments to justify that.
Yeah.
And why does the atheist have the default when God does not exist is as much as a positive claim as God exists?
That's not what we said.
Because atheists aren't asserting God does not exist.
They're not asserting it's...
Okay, if you don't believe somebody's guilty, are you asserting that they're innocent?
Innocent until proven guilty, yes.
You're not asserting that they're innocent. If you're on a jury, you vote not guilty. You don't vote innocent. You vote not guilty. Atheism is not guilty. Anti-theism would be an assertion of innocence.
Wouldn't God exist and God not exist be a guilty or innocent verdict?
Yes.
And would we play an impartial juror in deciding?
No, you're confusing the actual state of affairs with respect with someone's actual belief about those affairs. In fact, either some God exists or no gods exist. Those are the only two possibilities. But what you believe about those is different. In actuality, either the defendant is guilty or the defendant is innocent. But that is the state of God exists, God doesn't exist, the defendant is guilty, the defendant is innocent. But what you believe about those is different. And until somebody demonstrates that the defendant is guilty, You are not justified in believing the defendant is guilty. You are in the position of rejecting this claim and voting not guilty, but that does not mean that you are convinced that the defendant is innocent. Likewise,
what if the evidence comes back that the defendant is guilty?
Well, in that case, then you say that you're a theist, so what evidence do you have that your beliefs are correct?
I have the different arguments that are presented by philosophers.
Those aren't
evidence. Those aren't
Arguments.
evidence. Those aren't evidence.
Can you define evidence?
It's
wow.
It's something that demonstrates that your claim is true. It's data.
But in any case, every one of those. Hang on,
philosophical
John.
argument?
That's an argument.
John. Stop. There are arguments and evidence. Evidence supports arguments. Evidence becomes the premises of arguments that lead to conclusion. You're saying that you believe because of the classical philosophical arguments for the existence of God. None of those are logically valid and sound. Please present one that is.
The Kalam cosmological argument.
The Kalam cosmological argument.
Yes.
You think that it's valid and sound and sufficient to demonstrate the existence of a God?
I've went through every premise, and so far there has not been a defeater for each premise. I've been actually looking it up.
No. You don't look for you don't have to have a defeater for each premise. You have to have a confirmer for each premise. The fact that somebody hasn't demonstrated a premise to be false, and by the way, with regard to Kalam, I don't necessarily buy that, but the fact that we have not demonstrated a premise to be false does not mean the premise is true. In the same way that the fact that we haven't demonstrated a defendant to be guilty doesn't mean that he's innocent.
How do you define truth? I define it as logical. Logic and truth are inseparable.
I don't think you know what either of those words mean.
Yeah.
You've demonstrated, John.
If something's illogical, then it's not true.
John! You've demonstrated from the beginning of this that you don't know what atheism means, you don't know what the position asserts, you don't understand where the default position should be, you do not understand what a true dichotomy is, and you don't know how to validate a logical argument because you said you went through the premises and couldn't find anything that defeats them. That in and of itself is an argument from ignorance. It is a fallacy. What you do is you have to verify the premises, not claim that they're true because they haven't been disproven. That's an argument from ignorance. And if you don't understand that, you got no business making claims that you believe something based on these arguments.
What are the atheistic cosmological arguments? I mean,
you're a moron.
Come on.
Atheism makes no claims about those. There are claims that are consistent.
Well, the universe had to come here somehow. I mean, you guys have make assumptions about how it came about, right?
No, we don't.
What if we have no explanation? Does that mean that the theistic explanation gains weight?
If you have no explanation, then I have no way of believing that atheism is the default position.
Really?
Yes, because
so you're willing to believe
it requires positive
claims,
knowledge.
No, John, what you're doing there is making another argument from ignorance. You are saying if atheism does not contain within it an explanation for the universe, then I cannot assume that it's the default position. When, first of all, atheism and the explanation for the universe have nothing to do with each other. Atheism is a response to theistic claims. Now, let's assume that we had no valid explanation for the origin of the universe. Then now we are in a position where we have no explanation. We are not in a position where theistic explanations suddenly become plausible for lack of something better. That's an argument from ignorance. You've made that same fallacy I don't know how many times in the last 5 minutes.
John.
Okay, can you tell me why atheism is the default position?
Well, I think we just went through that. Didn't we just spend?
Okay, I'll tell you I'll tell you why atheism is the default position, the rejection of theistic claims. What's the default position with respect to the existence of the Loch Ness Monster? Do you believe it until it's proven false, or do you disbelieve it until it's proven true?
I disbelieve it until proven true.
There you go. That's why atheism is the default position, because you disbelieve the claim that gods exist until those claims are proven true.
But atheism is a default position, is also a positive claim.
No,
it
not.
isn't.
No, it's not, and you just justified it to yourself. You have a mental block that is preventing you from recognizing that you are making special pleading claims with respect to religion when you just admitted that the default position with regard to the existence of the Loch Ness Monster is to disbelieve until it has been confirmed. Atheism is no less sound as a default position than that one is. And the fact that you are making a special exception really blows everything else out of the water. Argument from ignorance, special pleading. Why do you make a special exception for theism?
How am I arguing from ignorance when you already have the default, when you're already claiming the default? That's more ignorant than me trying to play the impartial juror and trying to see which way the evidence weigh into either theism or atheism.
But,
wait. You already claimed something that has no justification.
Let me ask you something. Which of these two alternatives is the more honest answer to a question? Saying I don't know or making something up?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Which of these two is the more honest position to take? If someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, what's more honest? Saying I don't know or making something up?
I don't know is more honest.
Thank you. Thank you. So
I don't know is not a position.
It's an answer to a question if you don't know the answer.
Right, but it's not a position. Atheism is a position.
No.
It is a response to theistic claims. This is like the fourth time today.
Yeah.
Theism asserts that a God exists. That is a positive claim. Atheism is the rejection of that positive claim. It is not.
Rejection is a positive.
No,
it
it's
isn't.
not. You idiot. It is not. Just as your default position with regard to the Loch Ness Monster is not an assertion that there's no such thing. It's not. I'd highly recommend, go to the Atheist Community website, www.atheist-community.org. Look around for the flagship things. Click on the lecture series. When the lecture series page goes up, click on the link that goes to past speakers. Scroll down till you see my name and a lecture on belief. Click that thing. You can get the slides. You can go watch it on Google Video. It's all explained in Venn diagrams in clear detail that demonstrate the difference that allows us to determine a true dichotomy. And it will hopefully, I don't know how else to explain it. We've done not guilty, innocent. We've done Loch Ness Monster exists versus it doesn't exist. And yet every single time when you acknowledge that this is the case, when you turn around and get back to theism, you claim that it's not the case. You throw it out because you keep misunderstanding what atheism is. And that was the very first thing that we corrected, both of us, two different ways. It is the rejection of theistic claims as unsupported by evidence. That's it.
Okay, can I ask you why you're equating the Loch Ness Monster with God? Isn't that an equivocation?
Because neither one of them have been demonstrated to exist.
Can you demonstrate that God doesn't exist?
I don't have to.
Do I have to demonstrate that the Loch Ness Monster doesn't exist? Do I have to demonstrate that? Answer the question. Answer the question, John. Do you have to demonstrate that to be justified in not believing it?
Yes, I believe.
You have to. You're saying
by looking for evidence of this Loch Ness Monster, same thing as if we're looking for God.
Okay, so we looked for evidence of Loch Ness. We didn't find it.
Screw the evidence, John. I have a dead body in the trunk of my car right now. Do you believe me?
Until the evidence shows otherwise, then I will, yes.
You're an idiot.
You're an idiot.
You are an idiot.
You put yourself in the position where you have to accept every claim, every God claim that you cannot disprove. And that means that you're going to hold contradictory positions.
Yeah. Do you accept the God that the Muslims believe in?
I believe we believe in the same God, but they just interpret wrong.
Well, and on what basis do you reject their beliefs?
Because their belief is contradictory, and
to what?
Muhammad is
to what?
A good prophet, I believe.
To what? What basis do you have to declare anything contradictory?
You
do know the Bible's contradictory, right?
At face value, yes, but you have to take other stuff into context.
Well,
Oh, and that
by what reason do you disregard the Muslim claims about God and say that yours are correct?
I don't reject their claims because of...
Sure you do. Are you a Muslim? Are you a Muslim?
But because of theological
John?
contradictions.
John, are you a Muslim?
No, I'm not.
Then you're saying that they didn't get it right.
I'm saying that they're interpreting Revelation wrong.
Okay, I don't care what you're saying with regard to interpretation. You're saying they got it wrong, and we're asking by what justification do you make that claim? You've now made a positive claim that they got it wrong, and you reject it. But what's your justification that they got it wrong?
I'm going to have to research it more. I'm honest.
You know what? You know what, John? Maybe if you do the research before you come to an opinion, you'd be better off.
But I've researched...
You're done. I researched. No, you didn't.
no.
I'll shut up now. You can have the next one.
Actually,
I beat up on John.
if John had actually done some research on Kalam, he probably would have run across John Loftus's book, and that would have probably been
and the
enough.
entire episodes of this show that have been dedicated to it.
But he still wouldn't get it, I don't think.